The arena was filled with the electrifying energy of fans eagerly awaiting the king of rock and roll. Bright lights danced across the stage, casting vibrant colors that reflected off the excited faces in the crowd. Cheers and laughter echoed as people waved their hands, some singing along to the familiar tunes that Elvis had made famous. The air buzzed with anticipation. Everyone felt they were part of something special. In the middle of this lively atmosphere stood a little girl with bright blonde pigtails, her eyes sparkling with joy. She wore a light pink frilly dress that swayed gently as she bounced on her tiny feet, clutching a bouquet of colorful daisies and roses. The flowers were almost as bright as her smile, and she could hardly contain her excitement. She dreamed of handing them to Elvis himself, sharing her heartfelt words after weeks of practice. As she watched him perform in his dazzling white rhinestone jumpsuit, her heart raced. The music filled her with hope, and she knew this was her moment. With determination, she started moving through the crowd, navigating around other fans who were lost in the music. But suddenly, a large security guard stepped into her path like a wall. Startled, she halted in her tracks. Whispers rippled through the audience as they turned to see what had happened. Her eyes widened in fear, and tears began to form as she dropped her beloved flowers to the ground, unable to move forward in her quest to reach Elvis. Amidst the swirling excitement of the concert, the little girl stood out like a bright star. Her blonde pigtails bounced playfully as she swayed to the music, her eyes wide with wonder. The light pink frilly dress she wore was not just an outfit, it was a symbol of her joy and innocence. Each layer of ruffles danced with her movements, catching the colorful stage lights that twinkled around her. In her small hands, she held a bouquet bursting with vibrant daisies and roses. The flowers were a mix of yellows, pinks, and whites, each one carefully picked by her or gifted from someone special. They represented her love for Elvis and the excitement she felt about finally meeting him. She had rehearsed what she would say to him countless times, imagining his smile when he received her flowers. As she looked around at the cheering crowd, she felt like she was in a dream, a place where anything could happen. Her heart raced with anticipation, urging her to take a step closer to the stage. She imagined handing over her bouquet and hearing Elvis's warm voice thanking her. But when she attempted to move forward, the sudden appearance of the large security guard shattered her hopes. He stood firmly in front of her like an impenetrable barrier. Confusion washed over her face as she clutched her flowers tighter, unaware that tears were starting to brim in her eyes. The joyful atmosphere around her faded as fear crept in, leaving only the desire to meet the man on stage shining through the sadness. For weeks, the little girl had dreamed about this moment. Each night before bed, she practiced what she would say to Elvis while imagining his warm smile. She envisioned standing in front of him, those dazzling lights shining down, and handing over her bouquet of daisies and roses. Every time she thought about it, her heart filled with excitement and hope. Her mother would watch with a smile as the girl rehearsed her lines, pretending to be Elvis himself. "Thank you for being the best singer ever," she would say in her small voice, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "I love your songs." The words felt magical to her, and she could picture how happy he would be to receive her flowers. As she stood among the crowd, the thrilling music made her feel like anything was possible. She could almost hear Elvis singing directly to her, his voice wrapping around her like a hug. She could imagine what it would feel like to reach out and give him the flowers, see him take them gently from her hands, and smile at her with kindness. But now, with the security guard blocking her path, everything felt different. The anticipation that filled her heart turned into confusion and sadness. Tears threatened to spill as she clutched the bouquet tighter, wishing for a way to break through the barrier that suddenly stood between them. Each moment felt like an eternity as she longed for just one chance to share her joy with the man she admired so much. Determined not to let anything stop her, the little girl took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and set her sights on the stage once more. With her heart pounding, she began to weave through the bustling crowd, each step filled with purpose. Fans around her were swaying and singing along, unaware of the small figure navigating through their midst. Her eyes were locked onto Elvis, who was captivating the audience with his powerful voice and magnetic presence. She could feel the music vibrating in her chest, fueling her determination to get closer. As she maneuvered between excited fans, she was careful to hold her bouquet tightly, making sure not to let it slip from her fingers again. Some people noticed her struggle and smiled encouragingly as she pushed past them, their excitement blending with joy for this brave little girl. "I just want to see him," she whispered to herself, firmly clutching the flowers like a treasure. Each step felt like a giant leap toward her dream. With every inch closer to the stage, hope surged within her. She imagined handing the bouquet to Elvis, feeling his warm gratitude washing over her. The crowd's cheers seemed to lift her spirits even higher, pushing away the lingering fear of being blocked again. This was her moment, and nothing would keep her from it. She was determined to break through any barriers in her way and reach out for what she had longed for so desperately. As the little girl pressed forward through the sea of fans, her heart raced with excitement. But just as she felt she was getting close to the stage, a sudden movement caught her eye. A towering figure appeared in front of her, blocking her path like a mountain. It was a large security guard, clad in a black uniform and wearing an earpiece that twinkled under the concert lights. His stern expression made him look intimidating, and he stood firm, arms crossed over his chest. The girl's heart sank at the sight of him. She had imagined her moment with Elvis so vividly, and now it felt like a door had been slammed shut. Startled by his presence, she stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide with shock. The noise of the crowd faded into the background as she tried to comprehend what had just happened. The music still played, but it seemed distant now. Fans nearby began to murmur as they noticed her distress. Some exchanged puzzled glances while others looked on with sympathy. The girl clutched her bouquet tighter, feeling the weight of disappointment settle in her stomach. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized that this big man was stopping her from reaching Elvis. In that moment, all her dreams seemed to slip away, and she felt small and helpless among the cheering crowd. The once bright and colorful atmosphere around her became heavy, overshadowed by the guard's presence. As the little girl stood frozen, clutching her bouquet, whispers began to ripple through the audience. Nearby fans, who had been caught up in the excitement of the concert, turned their heads toward the scene unfolding before them. Confused expressions appeared as they noticed the small girl's distress and the imposing figure of the security guard standing in her way. "Is she okay?" one fan asked, concern etched across her face. Others leaned in closer, trying to catch a glimpse of what was happening. The murmurs grew louder as more people realized that something was wrong. "Why is he blocking her?" another voice questioned, scanning the crowd for answers. The girl's tears began to flow as she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, feeling exposed under the gaze of so many strangers. The once joyful atmosphere of the concert shifted subtly, as if everyone around her felt the weight of her disappointment. A few fans, moved by her plight, began to shout encouragements. "It's all right," one man called out. "You can do it." The crowd began to rally around her, creating a wave of support that washed over the little girl. As she stood still, heart racing and bouquet trembling in her hands, she felt the warmth of strangers' kindness piercing through her despair. It was a moment of unity, where everyone seemed to share in her hope and longing to see Elvis. Even amidst the confusion, a sense of connection sparked between them all, highlighting the power of a shared dream. As the supportive murmurs and cheers filled the air around her, the little girl felt her heart break. The overwhelming mix of emotions flowed through her, causing tears to spill from her big, blue eyes. They cascaded down her cheeks, and she no longer could hold back the sighs of disappointment and despair that bubbled within. The bouquet, which had been such a source of joy, slipped from her fingers as her heart sank deeper into gloom. It tumbled to the ground with a soft thud, colorful flowers scattering in disarray against the floor. She watched helplessly as the vibrant daisies and roses lay there, still beautiful, but now a symbol of all that felt lost in that moment. Around her, the crowd's encouragement faded as she focused solely on the reality of her situation. The happiness that had filled her heart just moments ago was replaced by a heavy sense of defeat. She could hardly comprehend how a simple barrier could crush her dreams so quickly. Her tiny figure shook with silent sobs as she searched for solace in the faces surrounding her. Yet, even amidst her tears, she felt the warmth of those cheering for her, urging her to keep going. The sadness didn't erase the dreams she held close. Still, it was hard to shake the feeling of being just a little girl in a big world where so much seemed out of reach. She clung to the hope that perhaps someone would still see her heart, and her wish to share something special with Elvis. As the little girl stood crying, the atmosphere shifted dramatically on stage. Elvis, with his legendary charisma, was delivering a powerful performance in his dazzling white rhinestone jumpsuit. The jumpsuit sparkled under the stage lights, reflecting the admiration and excitement of thousands of fans. His voice rang out across the arena, but suddenly, he became aware of a disturbance in the crowd. With his keen sense of empathy, Elvis glanced toward where the murmurs were coming from. His eyes quickly landed on the small figure of the girl, clearly upset and clutching a bouquet of flowers that had just fallen to the ground. The contrast between her innocent distress and the jubilant energy of his performance tugged at his heartstrings. In that moment, he felt a strong urge to connect with her. The audience continued to sway and sing, unaware of what was happening off to the side. But for Elvis, nothing was more important than addressing the sorrow he saw in the little girl's eyes. He stopped singing mid-verse, leaving a silence that echoed through the arena, capturing everyone's attention. Walking to the edge of the stage, he gestured to security with a look of concern that spoke volumes. It was clear he wanted to reach out, to change this moment of sadness into one of joy. The crowd fell quiet, holding their breath, captivated by what their idol would do next. In that split second, hope flickered in the air, uniting every person present as they awaited his next move. Elvis stood at the edge of the stage, his captivating presence momentarily dimmed by the sight of the crying little girl. The music faded into silence as he let his heartfelt concern take precedence over the show. His eyes, usually sparkling with energy, now reflected empathy and compassion, a rare glimpse of vulnerability from the king of rock and roll. With deliberate grace, he gestured to the security guard blocking her path. A look of urgency crossed his face, communicating a clear message. Let her through. The crowd held its breath, captivated by this unexpected turn in the performance. Fans exchanged whispers of disbelief. Many had never seen Elvis break from his act like this. As he pointed toward the little girl, Elvis's expression softened even further. He didn't just want to acknowledge her distress. He wanted to reassure her that she was important. The audience could sense his genuine desire to connect, and a wave of support surged through them. They felt united in their hope that this moment would turn into something magical for the young girl. With every second that passed, anticipation filled the air. The audience awaited both Elvis's next move and for the security guard to comply. One could almost feel the collective heartbeat of thousands holding on to hope for this small girl who dared to dream big. When Elvis finally spoke again, his voice carried warmth and encouragement as if he were calling out directly to her, ready to transform her tears into joy. As Elvis stood at the edge of the stage, the arena was suffused with an intense energy, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The crowd, which had been swaying and singing just moments before, fell into a hushed silence. Eyes were glued to Elvis and the little girl, the focus of every heart in the stadium. The tension was palpable. You could almost hear a pin drop as time seemed to slow down. Fans leaned forward in their seats, straining to catch every nuance of this unexpected moment. Some held their breath while others exchanged excited glances, whispering things like, "What will he do next?" and, "Is he really going to let her through?" Elvis's expression remained steady yet compassionate as he looked toward the security guard blocking her path. In that moment, the crowd shared a collective hope that felt like an electric current oscillating through the air. Would their idol truly break from his performances to reach out to this little girl in need? His gesture towards security sent waves of curiosity washing through the audience. Each second felt like an eternity as they waited for a response. Would he give her that chance? The little girl stood frozen, still clutching her fallen bouquet, completely unaware of how many hearts had come together at this pivotal moment. Everyone sensed it, the simple yet profound connection being forged across that space. As hope swirled around them, all eyes were fixed on Elvis, waiting with bated breath for what would happen next, ready for transformation in this extraordinary scene. In a moment that would be etched in the hearts of everyone present, Elvis stepped off the stage, leaving behind the bright lights and roaring applause. The crowd gasped collectively, their anticipation reaching a fever pitch. As he made his way toward the little girl, every eye in the arena was fixed on him, the atmosphere crackling with energy and disbelief. Elvis moved with purpose, his iconic white rhinestone jumpsuit shimmering under the stage lights as he approached her. The little girl stood frozen, clutching her fallen bouquet of flowers, wide-eyed and unsure if what she was witnessing was real. She felt as though time had stopped. The world around her faded into a blur while all that mattered was the man walking toward her. As he neared, Elvis's expression softened, filled with warmth and kindness. He knelt down to her level, making sure she felt seen and valued in that moment. The crowd held its breath, their hearts simultaneously swelling with joy and excitement. This was not just a performance. It was a connection that transcended the barriers between idol and fan. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said gently. The sound of his voice sent ripples of emotion through the audience, who felt utterly captivated by this unforgettable scene unfolding before them. With a smile that could light up the darkest room, Elvis reached out his hand toward the girl, signaling that her dreams were about to come true. The arena erupted in applause and cheers, a wave of love and support sweeping through as they witnessed an extraordinary act of compassion from their beloved king. As Elvis knelt down before the little girl, the world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them in that magical moment. Her eyes sparkled with disbelief, still unsure if this was real. He reached out gently and accepted her bouquet, his fingers brushing against the delicate petals of the daisies and roses. "Thank you for these beautiful flowers," he said softly, his voice warm and reassuring. "You've made my day so special." The crowd watched in awe as he took a moment to truly connect with her, making her feel seen and important. Elvis then leaned in closer, his expression filled with kindness. "I know it can be tough when things don't go as planned," he shared, his sincerity wrapping around her like a comforting hug. "But never give up on your dreams. You're brave for coming all this way to see me." The little girl giggled through her tears, a smile blooming on her face as she felt the warmth of his words sink in. It was as if all her fears had melted away, replaced by joy and hope. She didn't just have a celebrity's attention, she had touched someone's heart. Elvis looked into her eyes and said, "Would you like to come up here?" The audience erupted with applause once again, a chorus of cheers encouraging her to take that leap of faith. In that unforgettable moment, everything changed for the girl. She felt not only like a fan but also like a cherished friend of Elvis himself.